Coming up, the Dodgers win at Wrigley in the 9th, and Fernando Tatis Jr. is back. This is Locked On Game to Game, MLB.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game. MLB local experts join us to go over last night's game in Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. The Los Angeles Dodgers broke a 9th inning tie with the Cubs in the biggest of ways, a grand slam off the bat of James Outman that gave LA a 6-2 victory. Both Locked On Dodgers and Locked On Cubs go over the fireworks at the finish line.
I know you all come to me for the hard-hitting baseball analysis, so here it is. James Outman is good at baseball. What's up? It's Jeff from Locked On Dodgers. Dodgers beat the Cubs 6-2. It was 2-2 into the 9th inning, and then James Outman decided it was a good time to hit his second home run of the game because, hey, the bases are loaded, and he'd never hit a grand slam before. Let's see how that feels. Felt pretty good. Put the Dodgers up. Brusdar Graterol came in and shut the door, finished the game off. Great game for the Dodgers. They hit well enough. They pitched really, really well and played good defense. All around, really good game, but James Outman is a story. It's his first career grand slam, first career 2-home run game. Max Muncy also had a home run that was very much aided by the wind. And Mookie Betts made his major league debut as a shortstop and played pretty good defense. Only had one opportunity, but it was pretty spectacular. So all this stuff we're going to be talking about in the morning on Locked On Dodgers. Be sure to check us out like you do every weekday morning, wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube.
Rough one today at Wrigley. The Cubs return home and lose 6-2 to the Dodgers. They found out pretty close to game time. Jameson Taillon got IL'd, so Javier Assad made a spot start. He only went 3 innings. Game was 2-2 for most of the night. Cubs had a couple of really good opportunities to take command of the game. They couldn't do it. And then Michael Fulmer, who has really struggled in these high leverage situations so far this season, gives up a grand slam to James Outman, who hit 2 today. And that was the difference in the ball game. Soft hit to Peralta, started it off. A hit for Vargas, a walk to Hayward. Bases loaded, 1 out, full count to Outman. Fulmer had to throw a strike, and Outman hit a long home run. So the Cubs lose a game. It feels a little bit deflating just because the next 3 days they're going to have to face Urias, May, and Kershaw. But the Cubs have been playing good baseball. They were due a performance like this, so we'll see if they can bounce back tomorrow.
Connor Joe and Jack Sawinski hit back-to-back homers, and the Pirates beat their division rivals, the Reds, by a run on Thursday. Both Locked On Reds and Locked On Pirates recap both sides of that final in Pittsburgh.
Well, they weren't shut out, but the Reds' bats were still quiet enough that they couldn't get the win. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast, and Luke Weaver's debut as a Cincinnati Reds starting pitcher wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad. He gave up 4 runs in the first inning thanks to a 3-run home run from Connor Joe and then a home run right after that, but he was able to limit the damage. That was the only runs that the Pirates scored. It's just the lineup could not help him out. They were able to make a comeback late as Roansy Contreras was pulled from the game. He really dominated this lineup with that breaking ball of his, and the Reds just had no answer for him. So we're hoping to see them bounce back a little bit as the Reds and the Pirates figure to be a competitive series. But if the Reds' bats aren't going to help them out, this might be a bit of a tough one.
Early home runs were the story. Connor Joe hits a 3-run shot. Jack Sawinski hits one right after. And that was all the runs the Pirates got. But it was enough to get past the Cincinnati Reds for the Pittsburgh Pirates as they win 4-3 at PNC Park over the Cincinnati Reds, picking up their 4th straight victory. Roansy Contreras continues a streak that goes up to 10 now of quality starts from Pittsburgh Pirates starting pitching. The Pirates moved to 13-7 on the season. You gotta love it. The Pirates have good vibes right now. Everything is going great. They head to Game 2 tomorrow against the Cincinnati Reds with Mitch Keller facing Graham Ashcraft. My name is Ethan Smith, your host of the Locked On Pirates podcast. I will see you tomorrow, and I will also see you on the flip side.
The Yankees won the rubber game against the Angels, and they took the series against Shohei Ohtani. Locked On Angels and Locked On Yankees have more after the Bronx Bombers won 2 of 3.
A 5-run bottom of the first inning did the Angels in on Thursday, and they lose 9-3 against the New York Yankees. Hey, everybody, my name's Mike Frisch, one half of Locked On Angels. Halos lose the series against the Yankees. It was a terrible series, and it was a terrible day. Speaking of the day, Patrick Sandoval started this game and struggled. He walked 6 batters, and the Angels walked 11 total batters in this game. Yankees were really patient at the plate. And then for the series, the Angels just couldn't hit when it mattered. They were 5 for 30 with runners in scoring position. What's the issue with Patrick Sandoval? John and I are going to talk all about it on Locked On Angels, and we hope you'll join us.
This is Stacey Gasulias of Locked On Yankees, and the Yankees beat the Angels 9-3 at the stadium. They win the series 2 out of 3. The big key for the Yankees: neutralizing Trout and Ohtani. In the first game, they did not do that. Trout and Ohtani were 3 for 7 with a home run and a double. In the second 2 games of the series, the 2 games the Yankees won, Trout and Ohtani combined to go 3 for 16 with no extra base hits. So kudos to the Yankees pitching staff for keeping those 2 guys off the bases, because those 2 guys are 2 of the best players to ever play the game of baseball. So, good for you. Speaking of pitching, Nestor Cortes, 6 innings, 3 runs. First time he allowed 3 runs in a game after 9 straight starts of 2 or fewer. He still gets the win. It was a good performance by him. And yeah, the Yankees are looking good going into their series against the Blue Jays, which starts on Friday. So we'll have everything you need to know about this game, and we'll preview that series on the next Locked On Yankees. So tune in.
Coming up, Pete Alonso hits another home run and another Mets win. This is Locked On Game to Game, MLB. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by Built Bar. They are the best tasting protein bars on the market. They're made with 100% real chocolate. They come in dozens of different flavors. I personally like the Puffs flavors. Those come with that protein infused marshmallow. They're good for you too because they're low in sugar, low in fat, low in carbs, but high in protein. You can of course order them at built.com, but you can also now get them at Walmart or Sam's Club. At Walmart, you can get the 4-bar boxes in the pharmacy section, or you can do what I do, go to Sam's Club, get those 13-bar boxes and stock up so you have them for a while. And of course, you can always head to built.com. Trust me, you will not regret it. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. I'm Kainani Stevens. Thank you again for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. The Colorado Rockies hit the road and they shut out the Phillies in their series opener on Thursday. Locked On Rockies hosts go over the win.
Rock On Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast, and it's over. Finally, the Colorado Rockies win a baseball game, snap the 8-game skid, and not only do they win, but they win in pretty solid fashion. Ryan Feltner, another pretty solid start. He's someone to watch so far. We're going to have to see how it continues throughout the rest of the season, but honestly, I think one of the most exciting Rockies to watch is out of the bullpen. Justin Lawrence comes out and has a big-time moment, gets out of a jam, and continues to throw some absolutely wicked stuff. The Rockies offense comes alive on the road, and the Rockies shut out the Phillies in Philly. Not every day you get to go into another team's ballpark and shut them out. It's exactly what the Rockies needed to do. We'll be breaking it all down right here on Locked On Rockies.
Fernando Tatis Jr. returned from his suspension on Thursday, and he did not get a hit, but the Padres did get a win in Arizona to move within a game of 500. Locked On Padres takes a deeper look into the superstars' return to the field.
He's back. What's going on, everybody? Javier Reyes here of the Locked On Padres podcast. Your Padres win in the return of Fernando Tatis Jr. 7-5, but oddly enough and somewhat poetic that it wasn't because of Fernando Tatis Jr. that they actually won. He goes 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. Does make a nice grab in the outfield with a really nice jump showing off the speed in the 8th inning, but this night belongs to Trent Grisham. 4 RBIs, 2 doubles. He looked awesome, even drew a walk, and Xander Bogaerts continues to astound, hitting a home run and going to 4 in the game as well. That was really awesome. Offense, Matt Carpenter hits a solo shot in this game too. Nelson Cruz, in his own way, showing off the Jets. Really cool stuff overall, especially considering that Michael Waka Waka over here did not have the best start ever. Anybody who picked him up in fantasy, I should have warned you beforehand. He's going to do this. He's going to regress a little bit. He's not a below 3 ERA guy that I think anyway. But still really cool to see Tatis back, and maybe just his spirit powered the Padres offense to resurrecting itself for at least one game. We're going to talk about the rest of the games on Monday and talk about tonight's game on Friday. So stay tuned for that, guys, on Locked On Padres podcast. And as always, stay faithful.
Pete Alonso leads all of baseball after his 9th home run of the season last night, and the Mets beat the Giants in San Francisco. Locked On Giants has more after his team's loss.
The rough start to the 2023 season continues for the San Francisco Giants as they fall to the New York Mets. They're 6-12, losing twice as often as they win. On the flip side, I just want to remind you that last year, through the same number of games, the Giants were 13-5, and look how that turned out for them. It didn't turn into a successful season at all. And so we cannot judge a team entirely based on 18 games, but certainly you'd rather be 13-5 than 6-12. And also, by the way, in 2020, not the same number of games, but they started 8-16. And before the end of that 60-game season, they were back over 500 at a certain point. And so, again, they're not doomed, but they're not playing well. They still haven't won 2 games in a row all year. It's got to stop at some point, and hopefully it starts tomorrow. Tough series, tough homestand, but you got to find a way, get some wins. We'll break it down on Locked On Giants, where it's your team every day.
That will do it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game MLB. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Baseball's back in action, so make sure you're subscribed to Locked On MLB and your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.